Welcome to the part 4 of this camel series. In the previous videos, we have texture painted this camel. Here you can see we have texture painted this thing, and now in this video we are going to add fur and the particle system to this camel. So starting with the tail, I am going to the edit mode and we need to select the vertices which will form tail. So I am selecting these vertices and going to the vertex group. I am going to create a new vertex group and renaming it to the tail. We need to assign these vertices with that group. Now coming back to the object mode and selecting the camel and going to the particle system, and also rename this particle with the same name that you have from the vertex group. Now go to the vertex group section while scrolling this thing and change the density to tail. Now change this particle mode to hair and decrease the hair length to somewhat around 3.5 or 4, whatever you like. And come to the children section right over here and change the children to interpolated. So here you can see we have the children particle also. Now change the display amount to somewhat around 30 and also the render amount to 30. Now at this point we can go to the particle edit mode, and using different tools given in the particle edit we can give the correct shape of this tail. So we are going to the particle edit mode and I am using this comb tool so that we can give the shape of the tail. You need to do this thing from different angles so that it will work properly from the different view. So here you can see I am aligning this hair particle from the top view and also from the right and left view. So now as soon as I come to the the display mode, viewport display, so here you can see our hair particle is having the texture, and in the cycles render this is looking almost realistic hair. Now since we have completed the tail hair, we can move forward to by adding the fur to this camel. First of all, let's save this project. Before adding the particle system to this model, you need to apply rotation and scale to this model. So since I forgot to apply this rotation and scale to camel, so I am apologizing for that thing. You need to apply this thing before adding any of the particle system, even before adding the tail. If you forget to do that, then your particle will weirdly behave and will ruin your project. So before adding any of the particle to this camel, you can apply that thing. If you have forgotten that thing, you can pause that thing again of adding the tail. I seriously apologize for that mistake, as I forget to mention this thing before. So I need to stop all of my recording at that time, and my scene was almost ruined. So I need to again start the recording. So you can apply that thing first of all before adding any of the particle. Now we are going to add a fur to this camel. So I am adding a new particle system and we need to make a new vertex group. So going to the edit mode, I am selecting the following vertices, we can divide the fur into different sections. So here I am selecting the head area where we can add one of the particle system for the fur. So here you can see I am deselecting certain areas which will not have any of the influence of the fur, like the eye area, even the nose area and the mouth area, which do not have any of the hairs of the fur. So you need to deselect each of these areas. Have some irregularity while deselecting so that it will look more authentic. So I am adding a new vertex group and renaming it to head underscore fur. So I am assigning each of these vertices to the same vertex group. Now coming to the particle system, and also rename this particle system to head underscore fur. Change the particle mode to hair. Now select the vertex group and go to the density and head fur. Decrease the hair length to somewhat around 0.05. So here you can see we have the hair length of 0.05. Now increase the number of particles to 3000. Now go to the render setting, increase the steps to 4 and also in the viewport display to 4. Turn off the extra panels which you have opened. Now go to the children section and change the children to interpolated mode. So this will add the children particle to each of the hair strand. So here you can see we have a lot of children particles. Now let's make our new lighting setup. So I am thinking to add a 3-point lighting system. So I am adding a new area light. So here is the area light and placing it right over there and increasing the power of this light to somewhat around 100. Place this light at a proper place and change the direction. So in the render view you can see it is not lighting properly. So we need to increase the power of the light. Duplicate this light and with this light you can have a more amount of power to somewhat around 1000. Duplicate it one more time. And change this to 800. Place this light at the proper place. Now selecting the camel again and going to the particle setting, we are going to make some necessary changes. So first of all, change the render and display amount to 30. Now we need to decrease this sample to 200 so that it doesn't take too much time in rendering the seen in the viewport. Now selecting this camel again and go to the particle system, and under the clumping setting change the clump value to somewhat around 0.5. Let's try this value. Change the clump value to 0.5 and let's see how does it go. This is the too much value, so we need to decrease this value to somewhat around 0.3. Again, this is the also very large value, so we can further decrease it to one more decimal of around, let's try 0.04. So here you can see it is looking perfect. So now scroll down again and under the roughness setting change the random value to somewhat around 0.1 or 0.2. So this will randomly arrange the particle. So here you can see right now the particle are looking very large, so we can decrease the head length to somewhat around 0.02. Okay, this is good. And we need to also change this random value to somewhat around 0.05. Okay. Oh, these hairs are looking very thick, so we need to change the shape of the hair. So under the hair shape menu we need to decrease the diameter to 0.5 and the tip value to somewhat around, let's try 0.1 for the tip value, 0.1, and for the diameter you can change to 0.5. Now you can turn off the unnecessary tabs that you have opened. Now turn off the unnecessary tabs that you have opened and under the king type change it to curl, and you can see this is looking too much weird. So decrease the amplitude to somewhat around 0.01. Okay, this is looking fine. Again. Let's decrease this to somewhat around 0.4. Let's have some experiment with this hair particle. Oh, this is looking too much weird, somewhat like spaghetti. So let's remove this for a while and make some necessary changes which will help us in getting the accurate fur. So I'm increasing the hair length to 0.04. Okay. So now coming to the shading tab, we are going to create a new material. So under the material property menu, add a new material We can either delete the principal BSDF or switch it with a new shader, and that new shader is none other than the principal hair BSDF. So here it is. So this is the new shader, and change the material in the particle setting with this new material that we have created, and also rename this material with fur. Now under the render tab you will be able to see that material. So here is the new material. Now change this direct coloring with the melanin concentration, and change the melanin value to somewhat around 0.6. Let's see what happens. Also decrease this melanin redness to 0.6. Now add a color ramp with this melanin. And add a noise texture. So if you don't know what is melanin, melanin is a kind of vitamin or mineral found in the hair of each and every organism, and it will define the color of the hair. So more is the concentration of melanin, the more darker will be the hair. So bring this black and white tabs of the color ramp with each other, closer to each other, and change the color of each of this tab according to what I have shown here. And under the noise texture we can decrease the scale Now since there is a poor lighting on the face of the camel, so we can change some of the parameters of the lighting area. So here you can see there is a darkness around the face of the camel, which is not good while adding a new particle system. We will not be able to make necessary changes if this kind of blackness will be there around the face. So for that I am selecting this area light, and I am bringing this area light much closer to the face and pointing it towards the face, and also scaling this area light. So now under the render tab you can see this is looking perfect, and there is a considerably good amount of light around the face of the camel, which is much suitable and quite helpful while working with this hair system. So you have shown that the area around the eye, there is a sudden decrease in the number of particles around the eye, which will not look good. So we need a gradual decrease in amount of the particle around the eye. So for that I am adding a weight around this area, so that there will be gradual decrease in the number of hair particle. So as soon as I keep on painting around this area, the particle will be added around that area. So at this area there are missing particles, so we can also again go to the weight bending tab, and we can also manually add the weights to this area so that there will be gradual decrease in amount of particle. Now coming back to the particle setting again, we can increase the number of particles to somewhat around 3500 so that we can have a large amount of particle. However, this will take a larger time to render in the final render. So instead, let's decrease this particle to 3000, and we can change the children's particle to somewhere around 40 or 45. So let's change this children particle to 40. So here you can see the fur on the face of the camel is looking more and more realistic, and it is looking very good. So I think let's change some of the lighting setting and bring each of these lights much closer to the camel. Now it's a time to add a new hair system. So for that I am adding a new vertex group, and I am renaming this vertex group with, so this vertex group will be around the neck and the back of the hump area of the camel. So we need to rename this vertex group accordingly with that particular work for which it has been added. So I am renaming this. Okay, let's select this group and rename this to neck fur. Now add a new particle system. So this is the new particle system, and rename this new particle system with the same name that you have created a new vertex group, neck_fur. So this will help you to figure out the kind of particle system for which vertex group which particle system has been added, which will be easier for that. Now go to the edit mode and select this head fur, so that we can now further select the next vertex group. Now press C on the keyboard and with the circle selection tool, select this area around the neck. Now deselect the head fur again. So this selection will also have the areas including the hump and the back of the camel. So now we are going to select those areas. So again press C on the keyboard and keep on selecting these areas. Now assign each of these vertices with the new vertex group that you have created. Now come to the object mode and under the particle setting, change the particle to hair and select the vertex group under the density and decrease the hair length to somewhat 0.5 or 0.7. Okay, 0.4. This is also very long, so you can also further decrease this to 0.05 I mean. Let's increase 1 point. Okay. Now increase the number of hair particles to somewhat around 5000. Since this area is very large, so we can have a large amount of fur. Now change this particle system with the previous particle system so that all of the previous settings that will be restored, and you can press the 2 so you can have a new particle system with an individual properties. So now change the number of, so first of all let's decrease this length to 0.06. And let's increase the number of hair particles to somewhat around 3000. Okay. So under the children setting, decrease the number of children to 30. Okay. Now let's do some more settings. So under the render tab, change the material to fur that we have created previously. Now under the clumping, change the clump value to 0.4. So this is too much value, so we can change that value later on. Now under the random setting, change this to 0.05 and decrease the clumpingness value to 0.1. Okay, this is looking perfect. Now again under the hair shape setting, change the diameter to 0.3 and we can change the tip to 0.1. Turn off the unnecessary tabs that you have opened. Now we can move on to the render tab and let's see. So here you can see the two of the particle systems. The head particle system is very dense, while the later particle system is looking a bit lesser dense. So we can make this new particle system more dense. So I am increasing the number of children particle to 40. And also increasing the number of particle to somewhat around 4000. If your computer is much better, you can have a larger amount of head particles. Now let's see this in the render view. So here you can see this is looking perfect, and we have quite a dense particle system around the neck and also around the back area and the hump area of the camel. So we can further proceed. So I am turning off this particle system and adding a new particle system, and I am renaming this new particle system with body underscore fur. And we need to also add a new vertex group. So select the previous vertex group that we have created, and also select the vertex group of a tail. Now select this remaining area of the head. So now I am going to select the bottom of the foot, where the hair particle system will not be present. So select the bottom foot area of the leg. And also select the nails of the camel. Since this area doesn't have any of the fur and hair system, so we can select each of this area. Also do the same thing of selection with the back leg, of selecting the area around the nails. Since this model is not having the mirror modifier, so we need to manually select the vertices on each of the left and right leg. So now since we have selected each of these vertices, so we need to invert the selection. But before that, let's add a new vertex group, and I am renaming this vertex group with body underscore fur. And press Ctrl I on the keyboard so the selection will be inverted, and assign these vertices with the new vertex group. Now coming back to the object mode, we are going to add a new particle system that we have added over, and change the particle to hair. Under the vertex group, change the selected entity, the body underscore fur. Now in order to reduce our work, we can change this particle system with the previous particle system that we have added. So all of the previous setting will be restored, and under the vertex group we can select the density of this body underscore fur. So now decrease the head length 0.06, and also decrease the children particle to 30. Let's have the 40, okay, and increase the number of hair particle to 5000. So this time the area is much larger, so we can have a larger amount of particle. So under the clumping setting, change the clump value to 0.3 or else 0.1 or 0.2, whatever you like. So here I am having the 0.1 value. Now under the hair shape, change the diameter to 0.3 and also this tape to 0.1. Now under the roughness setting, change the random value to 0.1. Okay, this is looking good. Let's also change this to 0.150. Let's see this in the render view. We are going to improve this particle system. Also increase this random value to 0.2 so that your particle will behave more randomly. Now again turn each of these particle systems so that we can have a good look of which of this particle system is having lesser dense hair. So under the render view, as soon as the computer processes these particles, we will be able to see. So here is the render view. So from the render view, we can have a conclusion that the last hair particle system that we have added was a quite lesser dense. So for that we can decrease the head particle system. So I have decreased the number of children to 30 in the head particle system, as they were quite more dense and computer was getting issues while rendering. So I have changed the random value of the neck and the hump fur to 0.2. Since we are having a large amount of particles, so it will take time to process. Don't worry. Again in the render you can see the body particle, the last particle system that we have added is very less dense. So I am turning off this particle system, and let's add a new particle system. This is the long fur. So since the camel is having some of the irregularity of shape of the fur, so we are going to add some irregular fur. So for that I am adding a new vertex group, and we can select some of the some of the area of the body of the camel where we can have a larger size of the fur. So around the neck and the hump area, which will have a larger density of fur, and also the length of the fur will be more dense and more large. Select the joints area around the knee and the joints of the camel. This area will have a larger amount of, the longer hair particles. Now assign these vertices to the vertex group and come to the object mode, and under the particle system change the particle type to hair and scroll down to vertex group, select the density and add a vertex group that we have created. Decrease the length of the hair to 0.01 or 0.01 is okay, this is too small value, so let's increase the value to 0.1. Okay, also further increase this to 0.15. I think this is too large, so 0.12 will be better. Okay, now under the render setting, change the material type to fur and add a particle system add a children particle. Increase the children to 30, and under the clumping setting change the value of clump to 0.4. Okay, 0.4 is the much better value. 0.3. okay, and change the hair shape to 0.1. 0.5. okay, this is looking perfect. Okay, play around this value, whatever you like. You can have that clumping setting. Now let's see this in the rendered view. If you are not having a good computer, don't turn off each of the particle system under the render view, otherwise your Blender may crash and you will lose each of this project. Now under the roughness setting, change the random value to 0.1. Okay, change it to 0.5. Okay, this is good. Okay, and under the king type, change it to curve. Decrease the amplitude to 0.1, 0.05. Okay, this is also too much. So add some of the negative value. So here I am experimenting with the different kind of value. Since this is looking perfect, so you can add an amplitude value of -0.01 and also change the frequency to 4. So each of the particle will curl 4 times. Now again change the diameter and tip of the hair to 0.3 and 0.1 respectively. Increase some of the flatness so that the particle will clump closer to each other and will form a cluster of particle. We can change the type of material for this kind of larger hair. So I am adding a new particle system. I am adding a new material group, and you can copy this 3 nodes and paste it into this material, or you can do this kind of thing, copying the whole material and renaming it to a new one, long fur. Here I am increasing the melanin redness, increase the blackness and decrease the whiteness for each of these nodes. And also bring them closer to each other so that there will be some different kind of color you will get. Now let's see how this looks in the render view. Oh, I was thinking that why it is not showing since we haven't changed the material. So here I am turning on each of the particle system so that we can have a proper judgment on this long particle that we have added. I am increasing the length of the particle to 0.15. Now I am increasing the clumping value 0.5 and I am decreasing the shape to a negative value. So play around this value, whatever you like. So since each of the particles are having a same size, same length, so I am increasing the length of the long fur to 0.2. And we can also change the number of frequency to 6. You can also increase the amplitude of this skull so that there will be larger length of the particle. Also increase the random value to 0.4 and now change the random to 0.3. You can have a different amount of value, whatever you like. Here I have placed this to 0.3. Since this is a time consuming process, so take your time in making this process. Now you can increase the number of particles to 2000. Now let's play around this new material so that there are different kind of shapes of the head system by increasing the relevant brightness and playing around the color ramp. Now decrease the scale on the noise texture. Now you can turn on each of this hair system, whatever your computer can handle. So now let's see this in the render view, how this looks. So here you can see the body fur is having the lesser amount of fur as it is less dense. So we can make some necessary changes to fill the gaps. So what you can do is to increase the first of all, let's turn off each of this particle system as the viewport is quite laggy. So selecting the body fur only. go to particle edit mode. Instead let's save this in the render view and then make some of the necessary changes. So on looking at this, the area around the stomach of the camel is having lesser amount of hair. So here I am increasing the clumping setting. And also change the random value to 0.3 so that the particle will randomly flow along the body. And let's add a kink, and that's this 0.05. Okay, let's see this in the render view. How does it look? Okay, so this is covering much of the areas that previously it was not covering. However, certain small gaps are remaining. So you can play around this amplitude of the kink type, whatever you like. Now let's again turn on each of this particle system, and we can again see this. How does it look in the render view? This is taking too much time, as we are having almost around 10,000 particles combining each of the particle system. So here you can see much of the area has been covered under the body fur. However, a small gap is remaining, and at this point we can assume that that small gap is remaining under the body fur is the wear and tear of the body fur. So since the people sit on the back of the camel, so those fur has been gone away and they will no longer available. That's quite strange. And now let's play around this light setting so that we can have some of the render. So this I was talking about, this is the wear and tear. So this much for this video. We can have a couple of render. So let's have a render.